What's up, y'all? It's Jaco here, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your next flight. I spent most of 2024 backpacking around the world with a bag like this, and I've learned a few things about how to save some dollars along the way. I'm so confident in my strategy that I am putting 20 American dollars on the line if anyone can beat me. More on the challenge later, but first, a disclaimer. If you're someone that wants to just book the first flight they find in less than 2 minutes and be done with it, this video is not for you and you should just click away now. But if you're someone who's willing to put in 10 to 30 minutes in order to potentially save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, then you should keep watching because this video is for you. Right now, I am someone who has time flexibility. I need to get from Charlotte to Melbourne, Australia, sometime between now on January 1st and January 14th. Like I said, this process can take 10 to 30 minutes of time in order to find the cheapest flight. So I've done some of that research already, and I'm just going to walk you through how I got to how I found the cheapest way for me to get to Melbourne. So just for comparison's sake, I'm going to go to Kayak, and Kayak from Charlotte to Melbourne one way kind of has this color range of which days are the cheapest flights. So looks like between now and January 13th, most days are going to be more than $1,200. So I'll go ahead and pick, let's say, Thursday, January 9th and search. And just to note that I will need to take off by Sunday, January 12th in order to arrive in Melbourne by January 14th because of the time change and the time that it takes to travel. It looks like on Kayak on January 9th, I could go from Charlotte to Chicago to LAX to Melbourne for $1,100. And I'm going to try just another day with the yellow that maybe there's a bad, I mean, these are not cheap. Looks like there's another one with 2 stops in LAX and CAN, and it takes 38 hours to get there. And so the other flight would be better. But again, going back to that, let's say that Kayak has found me a flight for $1,085. Right now, that's the leader in the clubhouse. If I go to Skyscanner and go from Charlotte to Melbourne in January of 2025, it suggests Thursday the 9th is the cheapest day. And after a bit of thinking, it's not even showing something for that price. The cheapest one, more than $1,100, and it's a self-transfer, which is okay. But if you're doing a self-transfer, this isn't the cheapest way to do it. On Kiwi, I can say that I want to leave from January 1st to January 11th, and it does show a flight for $1,020, but it takes more than 2 days, almost 2.5 days to get there. So that's not very good. So far for these three, it seems like the best flight is going to be $1,085, but I know that I can get there for cheaper. So how? So Google Flights, I can go from Charlotte to Melbourne again, and at the beginning, it's just going to show each of the days and how much it thinks it'll cost for the cheapest flight on that day. And so far, it's actually saying that there's nothing less than $1,200. But let's go ahead and pick on the 7th, since that day is relatively cheap compared to the other days. It's really expensive. I'm not paying that. And so here it's showing this flight that stops in Dallas and Nadi for $1,200. And I'm also looking at some of the other cities that have layovers, because sometimes United might let you pay a lot less if you're flying to Houston and then the Houston to Melbourne as two separate legs, you can sometimes save a lot of money that way. Or there might be other airlines that would do it for cheaper, not necessarily the exact flight. So if you start from a fresh search in Google, you can type in multiple cities at once with some commas. So I'll add O'Hare, since that's showing as one place to stop. I'll add Dallas, since that's also showing a place to stop. And I'll add Houston and LAX, since I see all of those cities down here. And so now I see the cheapest flight from one of these places, it looks like would be Chicago, and it gets there, so it takes off on January 7th, and it's $550. And I can go from Charlotte to Chicago on January 7th for a lot less than $600 or $700. So that's kind of the idea that you're going for. It's also a good idea to look up some major cities wherever you're going. Cities like New York, Washington, D.C., London, Santiago, Chile. There's different cities and different continents that tend to have cheaper flights. You may already know what those are, or it might take some time for you to figure those out. But that's another way to think of other cities to search. And also in Google Flights, in order to figure out what cities might be the cheapest ones to fly to, you can do a more flexible search in Google Flights. So let's say I'm just trying to get to Australia, and it shows on this day, it looks like Adelaide is the cheapest flight in Australia, still more than $1,000. And you can also change it so that you have any day and a particular month in the next 6 months. So here it's showing that Brisbane has the cheapest flight in January. It's at the end of the month, but just something to keep in mind that maybe Brisbane would be a good city for me to fly to. While looking for other places to potentially fly to as a stopover in order to save money, I think about other cities that I have maybe friends and family, so that the extra time it may take in order to save the hundreds of dollars for the cheapest flight becomes more of a positive rather than a negative. And so here is one example of how I could get to Melbourne for way cheaper than the $1,100 range we were looking at earlier. So on January 10th, I can fly with Frontier for $29 to Washington, D.C. I will call out that this flight would not include a bag. So while you're looking for flights, make sure that you understand the bag policies that different carriers may have that you may not see in the upfront price, and be sure to weigh those factors. And from DC, I can fly to Brisbane on January 12th for $429. I would arrive on January 14th. And then I could fly from Brisbane to Melbourne that day for $71. I probably would pay a little bit extra in order to get a flight that leaves a bit earlier, because 5 a.m. to 8:55, I admit, is a long time. But I could get there on January 14th for 29 plus 429 plus $71, and that is a total of $529. Compare that to the $1,085 that we found from Kayak, and that's savings of $556, more than half of the total flight cost, just by spending some time on Google Flights. This by no means is the most convenient flight that I have found. I've saved thousands of dollars over the past year booking flights like this. Most of them have been slightly more convenient than this, but the reason I wanted to absolutely maximize the savings for this flight is because I want to put the challenge out there. If anyone can find a way to fly from Charlotte, North Carolina to Melbourne, Australia, sometime between now and arriving by January 14th. In the next 24 hours from when the video gets posted, I will Venmo, PayPal, Wise you $20 if you can post it down in the comments to the first person, if there is anyone who can find a cheaper way. If you have a flight that you're wanting to book, that you're trying to find the cheapest price, and you're still having some trouble after watching this video, feel free to respond in the comments where you're trying to go to and about when, and I will reply to every single comment and help as much as I can so that you can get the cheapest flight. And if there's any other topics about saving money while traveling that you want to learn more about, let me know, and I'd be happy to continue making videos like this. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next travel video. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, whatever time it may be.